This video is brought to you by the Army Painter. The Thousand Sons haven't historically had a lot of support for their vehicles, but with the introduction of Sekitar robots, the army suddenly has a better cause to support their mechanized options. Unlike the vehicle-centric detachments in the other cult legions, the Warpforged Cabal detachment doesn't focus on transports. Instead, it's more like the Space Marines Ironstorm detachment, buffing your vehicles and making them a more credible threat in their own right. Hope you brought defilers! Why not Warpforge your own Cabal by subscribing to us here on YouTube? Don't worry if that doesn't make sense, just go with it. To read more about this detachment, head over to goonhammer.com. Link in the description. Detachment Rule: Warpfire Infusion. Each time a Thousand Sons vehicle unit from your army shoots or fights, apply one of the following abilities. If it's within 6 inches of one or more friendly Psyker models, you can reroll one hit, wound, and damage roll. Otherwise, it can reroll one hit, wound, or damage roll. When a Thousand Sons vehicle with the Deadly Demise rule is destroyed within 6 inches of a friendly Thousand Sons Psyker model, Deadly Demise triggers on a 5-up. We're not sure that "what if the Ironstorm Spearhead's detachment rule was even better?" is a question that ever should have been asked, let alone answered, but the Thousand Sons are nothing if not willing to ask the tough questions. There's a very funny downside here though. If your vehicle has the Deadly Demise rule and dies within 6 inches of one of your Psykers, it explodes on a 5-up, rather than a hard 6. To be fair, unlike the Loyalist Ironstorm, this rule only applies to vehicles, which does limit its utility somewhat, but it's not like the Sons of Magnus are hurting for useful vehicles. Vindicators and Land Raiders are exactly what you want them to be, if not a bit better thanks to the extra AP on the bolters they're packing, and the datasheet abilities on both flavors of Predator are just straight up better, so long as you can hit their target with a Psychic attack or a Doom Bolt before you open up. Forge Fiends, Mauler Fiends, and Defilers are no slouches either, and at the right points cost, the rerolls might be enough to put Hellbrutes into the conversation. Just don't expect much from the Helldrake. Sorry, Turbo Chicken. There are no character vehicles for the Thousand Sons, so your enhancements go on the Psykers that want to follow those vehicles around. Warp Siphon is a way to make channeling the warp more reliable, letting you reroll that extra channeling die in exchange for causing a mortal wound to a nearby vehicle. This can keep your Psyker's head from exploding and just make your spells go off more consistently. Perplexing Cloak lets an infantry model cosplay as a Tech Marine, gaining Lone Operative within 3 inches of a vehicle. This is a neat trick when combined with your detachment rule to get the most out of your rerolls without having to worry about your character getting sniped. The downside is that there aren't really many characters you want to run solo, but a Terminator Sorcerer might be a good shout here. The Tech Marine cosplay isn't done yet, as Biomechanical Mutation lets you repair a vehicle within 6 inches of the bearer for D3 wounds. Slap it on a Tzaangor Shaman and enjoy your one Beastman pit crew. Warp Cursed Rune Master extends ritual range by 6 inches when the bearer is near a vehicle, giving you a hefty 30 inches of range. It's a great pick in a list focusing on long-range firepower. To no one's surprise, the stratagems focus on vehicles, especially those near Psykers. Hex-marked armor is an Armor of Contempt style stratagem, lowering the AP of enemy attacks by 1. It only lasts for 1 attack activation, but it can be clutch, especially on a vehicle with a 2-up save. Mutate Landscape is a fantastic take on the typical sticky objective stratagem, not only letting you control an objective after leaving it behind, but also causing mortal wounds to enemy units that come within range of it. Cyber Spirit Machinations lets a vehicle fall back, shoot, and charge, so long as that fallback move ends near a friendly Psyker. You'll use this a lot with your Defilers and your Forge Fiends. Malevolent Animus lets a vehicle ignore all modifiers to its characteristics except for saving throws. It's best used to ignore modifiers from getting bracketed. Ensorcelled Infusion gives a vehicle's guns +1 to wound and the Psychic ability. That +1 to wound is great on its own, but a few vehicles like Predators get extra bonuses when shooting units hit with Psychic attacks. Warp Flame Gargoyles is like a reverse tank shock, letting you roll 6 dice and cause mortal wounds on 5s to a unit charging your vehicle, then forcing a battle shock test. This is more of a desperation stratagem than a staple, but it's got its uses. You might think this detachment is tailor-made for Sekitar robots, being walker vehicles, but even with the detachment buffs, they're probably not going to carry you to victory. Instead, you'll want to focus on your classic Chaos vehicles: Predators, Forge Fiends, Defilers, and Vindicators specifically. Your vehicles need support, and you'll want a couple of backfield characters with key enhancements to heal and buff them, plus some fast units that can act as forward support. Tzaangor Enlightened are perfect for this. They're fast, durable, can spread out across a large area, and they're dirt cheap to boot. Taking 3 units seems like a no-brainer. Getting the most out of this detachment means not just supporting vehicles with psychers, but making the most out of your rituals and getting them off every turn. Now let's go over the strengths and weaknesses. Vehicle buffs. The vehicle buff from the detachment rule is solid, and it works best when you have a small number of high volume attacks, which, hey, all your good vehicles do. Sticky objectives. This is the only Thousand Sons detachment, aside from the Grand Coven, that can sticky objectives, and you don't even need a vehicle to do it. Any psyker will work just fine. And those vehicles are pretty good. Thousand Sons vehicles aren't bad, and it's worth remembering that a vehicle with firing deck is still a vehicle. Dropping a pair of Exalted Sorcerers or Infernal Masters into a Rhino turns it into a pretty nasty psychic pillbox. Now unfortunately, there's some range requirements here. For this detachment to work, you really need your vehicles to be next to your psychers. And that's a problem. Your psychers can often be a bit squishy, even if you put them with a 100.5 model unit, and then they're often pretty slow. Bring it down. Bringing a lot of vehicles always opens you up to easy points on the Bring It Down fixed secondary mission, and being in that boat with rhinos and predators isn't ideal. And lastly, 5-up explosions. This doesn't seem like a big deal, but your tanks are going to explode on you twice as often, and it's gonna suck every time it happens, and it kills the closest psyker. We didn't really see this version of an armored detachment coming, giving the seemingly standard dudes in transports detachment that all the other cult legions got. As a result, it's not as vulnerable to losing a few transports as those are, and the dynamic of sorcerers helping tanks is a cool one to focus on. Just be sure to protect those little wizards if you want your tanks to keep on firing. If you want to see how we'd run the Wizard Van Armored Company, head over to goonhammer.com for a sample list and more. You can also support us on Patreon for Discord access and bonus podcasts, and like and subscribe to us here on YouTube. We'd also like to thank the Army Painter for sponsoring this video. I've been your resident Warpflame Gargoyle, Campbell McLaughlin, and if the Wizard Van is a rockin', don't come a knockin'. Thanks for watching.